All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, May 26th. We got a 12-game MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of last time you saw me, we didn't have a video yesterday, so this is from a couple days ago, and we go 1 and 2. Simeon for crazy juice. That's the only one that comes through, but the Diamondbacks blow it for us, and the Astros first 3 under 2.5. Mariners Astros first 3 under 2.5. That doesn't come through either. The good news is that the ride of the day, pumping some damn crowd noise from John, Phillies money line, Chris Sanchez 5+. Casey finishes with 6, 4+ money. Cashes there. John is now on a 3-game streak here. Hopefully we didn't throw off John's momentum because yeah, we did have no video yesterday. So hopefully, John, you're good to go today. If you guys do not know what, and by the way, this is the tracker. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. Give me your favorite play. You can also use hashtag ROTD. Give me your favorite play. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day and give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to roll with your plays. If you lose, you still get the shout out, but you got to face the womp womp from the soundboard, and we got to talk about it. But John is in the middle of a streak, so looking forward to seeing what he throws out there today. Let's get those in, and let's keep it rolling, John. John's cashed a couple good ones here, and that plus money one last time, very good as well. I'll be posting the ride of the day over on my Twitter/X, which will be rotating here throughout the show, but that link to the tracker that you just saw a second ago is also with the final play, so keep an eye down on the pinned comment. But all right, what do you say we go ahead and dive into game number 1 here? We have Detroit taking on San Fran. Keider Montero on the mound here. He's going up against Hayden Birdsong. So Birdsong obviously doesn't have the most amount of starts under his belt here. I believe he has just the 1 start, and it was pretty good. 5 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 4 Ks. Going up against Montero, who has a couple starts now under his belt, and he hasn't really looked all that terrible. Finally pitched deep into a game in his last start there. But I don't know if I fully am ready to extend the trust tree. I think Birdsong has a little bit more potential, and for the money that we'd be getting here at plus 110, I think I'm going to lean San Francisco. Now, what I will say is I am going to give Detroit the edge in terms of offense, and honestly, even with the pitch mix, they may be in a good spot here, but this is a team that I do think is fairly good, right? I'm not going to go further than that, and they've now lost 3 of their last 4 games, coming off of maybe a momentum-building win against Cleveland 5-0 after losing, the 3 previous games. Maybe that'll do something, and Tariq Skubal, he pitched 9 innings, 8-9 innings, something like that. So, yeah, a little bit of momentum there. Maybe that's a spot in which if you do want to get behind Detroit, that's the reasoning, but for the plus money, I think this one could be a, kind of low-ish scoring, grinded-out type game. So I'm honestly going to say this is like a 4-3 win for San Francisco, maybe, 5-3 or anything like that. So I'm going to lean San Fran and the under, but I do think, and I will say, there are better spots out there today. All right, next up, Milwaukee taking on Boston, and what I will say is I think there's a massive pitching advantage here as Garrett Crochet is on the mound against Chad Patrick. I do think that we could see some regression here out of Chad Patrick. What I'm going to give him credit for is the fact that he does throw a ton of sliders, and the Red Sox not exactly the best team at hitting the cutters, yeah, and not exactly the best team at hitting the cutter. In fact, everyone in their lineup except Rafi doesn't hit the cutter well in terms of runs above average over the last 30 days. So that is something that I'll give him credit, but we can't sit here and act like this Milwaukee team should be projected to even touch Crochet, right? Their offense is not all that great. I'm not going to give them credit for their most recent game there and kind of looking a little bit better. They scored 6 runs against Pittsburgh, but like prior to that, they had been struggling. If Milwaukee has kind of found their stride and, they're going to score, I guess I shouldn't even say prior to that because the bigger the sample size, the worse they look. But in their last, 6, 7 games, they've looked okay. But they haven't really gone up against a Garrett Crochet, right? And against lefties, they have been really tough, bad in the last 30 days. 199 batting average, OPS 584, ISO 095, slugging 294, hitting a ton of ground balls. So I do expect Garrett Crochet to be able to pitch well here, and that shouldn't be that crazy. It's Garrett freaking Crochet, right? So I think the way that I'd play this is Red Sox first 5 money line. That's pretty juiced. Red Sox full game money line. That's a little bit less juiced because of their bullpen. And then double result, which if you guys don't know what double result is, a lot of times it's pretty, I'd say the easiest place to find it would be on FD. But you essentially are saying they have to be winning after the first 5, and they have to win the game. So it's kind of like a halftime, full-time play. So yeah, maybe a third of a unit on each of those, or 0.33, and then we have a full unit on the game, kind of backing the Red Sox altogether. So I think that's going to be the direction that I go in. I don't think it's going to be the highest of scoring games. I will say no Bregman in the lineup, obviously kind of stinks for the Red Sox and whatnot. But again, Crochet versus Patrick, Red Sox offense, and the bats they have versus the Brewers offense, I do think there's a lot of angles to get to the Sox here today. All right, Cubs taking on Colorado. Jameson Taillon on the mound going up against Carson Palmquist. I would say that this is more of a fade of Colorado than it is a backing of Taillon, because Taillon is coming off of a 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run game against Miami. But it wasn't really like a dominant performance. They just couldn't hit him, right? But a lot of contact. I think he only even had like 2 strikeouts now that I think about it. So I'm not sitting here thinking that he's going to go out there and dominate. What I am thinking is that Carson Palmquist is not very good, and this Cubs offense is. So if you can fit the Cubs in maybe into some sort of parlay or take them on the first 5 run line or something like that, maybe there's potential. But I think the juice has already been squeezed from this fruit here, because them sitting at minus 325, very tough to get that through. What you could look at, and I don't think that this is probably going to be tough too, is maybe Colorado team total under. But in fact, let me take a peek at what their team total under is as of right now. And again, it's not necessarily a full backing of Jameson Taillon. It's more so saying the Cubs stink. And yeah, the Rockies stink. Under 2.5 for minus 111, I don't think so. This game seems like it may be chalked. Next up, Baltimore taking on St. Louis. I want to start with a player prop here. In fact, let me go through it and show you guys. I'm using Outlier here. If you guys want access to Outlier, link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. You get 7 days free, my favorite player prop research tool. So looking at Dylan Carlson here, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. You can see best available over on Novig right now. It is a little juicy, but this is a guy that has kind of crushed the last couple days, right? Not so much on the season now. We don't have the biggest of sample size behind him, but what I like to see here is the fact that, one, he's going up against Eric Fetty, who Eric Fetty, in terms of going up against left-handed bats, batting average drops down to 222, as does the WOBA. Realistically, the big thing here for me is going to be the pitch mix. So first off, the sinker, WOBA 0, right? And if we even look at this in terms of WOBA, obviously with a 0, not much going there, but I love that Eric Fetty against left-handed bats is kind of cautious and pitches it either on the outside high or outside low. We move over to the slider. Okay, the slider's a little bit better, but still only a 225 WOBA. And you can see here, everything that he's seen so far this year, never mind even hitting, seen has been kind of outside to him. Fetty likes to jam it right on the waist there on the inside. So the heat map looks really good here. And then the cutter, the last pitch I'm worried about, 50% strikeout rate, not much of a sample size, but a 0% WOBA. And you can see here where the Eric Fetty likes to throw it. So everything kind of checks out. The one thing I will say is obviously not the most amount of sample size from him today, up to date, I should say, but still, I kind of trust Eric Fetty in this one. So yeah, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, it is fairly juicy, but I do think that, I have this pegged in the minus 160. So any of these books here that you can get in the minus 150s, at least to me, you're still getting 10 cents of value. But where do we go in this game here? We have, Charlie Morton on the mound going up against Fetty. I would give, the nod to Fetty, who is coming off of a kind of rough start against Detroit, but prior to that had blanked 2 teams in a row, Philadelphia being one of them, and Washington. Washington's not like a terrible offense. They're not all that great, but let's give him credit for the Philadelphia one. Charlie Morton's kind of just walking through this season, I would almost say. He's got a 7.6 ERA, a whip of 1.7, not all that tremendous. He's going to throw fastball, curveball. I would say that there's an offensive advantage for sure on the St. Louis side of things. The one concern of mine is that are the Baltimore Orioles starting to get things going? Last 6 games here, 8-5-5-5, 2 and 5 runs scored. Like, this team couldn't score a drip of a run, a couple weeks ago. Now they're kind of putting up 5 runs, and, maybe that's something to hang your head high on. I don't know. I would still trust the bigger sample size that we have of the, last couple months, maybe even the entire season, and say this Cardinals offense is a hell of a lot better. Baltimore's also only won. Now, they haven't won many games, so take this with a grain of salt. 34% of their games at home this year. So go out there, score some runs, St. Louis, get to Charlie Morton, and I don't think Baltimore keeps up with you. So I'm going to lean towards that. I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals side of things, and I would also say a team total over could be in play here today. In terms of weather that we're going to be expecting in Camden Yards, 75 degrees, not much wind. I think that we can at least see a decent, run output from this Cardinals team. So right now, I want to say that we saw, let me get the updated team total, 4.5 for plus money. If it's not plus money, now it's minus 110. See, I don't love that as much. I would say Cardinals money line probably has some more value over that run total now because 5 runs is still a lot to ask for. All right, we should have a good one here. Texas taking on Toronto, and I say we should have a good one because of the pitchers we see on the mound. We have Gausman for Toronto going up against DeGrom here for this Texas squad. Gausman has been, you exclude some of these weird starts. He's been looking pretty good this year, I would say. And maybe that's just because I'm a Gausman guy. But a 4 flat ERA, 1.06 whip is very good, though. Average against of 220. But there's no question that there is a little bit more to be proud of if you're a Texas fan of what DeGrom's done. 2.3 ERA, a home whip of 0.85, a FIP of 292, average against under 200. So, yeah, obviously he's looking good. What I would say is I think both of these offenses, are going to struggle against the fastball and going to struggle against the slider or even, I guess, the splitter in a sense, which are the pitches that we'll see, fastball slider from DeGrom, splitter, and the fastball from Gausman. I think that we could see a low-scoring game in the first 5 and in the first 3. So I like the first 5 under 4. Right now, that's minus 140 over on ESPN. I also kind of like the first 3 under 2.5 for minus 160 on MGM. So hopefully we can get ththose prices. I don't know if I'd go much further. I know that minus 160 is a big price to pay. But still, just all we have to do is score one. We like 1 run per inning screws us. Have 1 inning, whether it's the first, second, or third, of no run baseball, and we could be cooking with gas. You know what I mean? So I like this to be, the starting pitchers kind of right off to the races, doing pretty well. In terms of these guys' numbers against the opposing teams, they're pretty good. Now, DeGrom only has 9 plate appearances against, but he's got an average against of 125, an expected batting average against of 073, and a 66.7% K rate. 9 plate appearances, we can't put too much weight into that, right? But I'd say for Gausman's side, 107 plate appearances against, an average against of 178, a strikeout rate of 32, a walk rate of 5.6, a WOBA of 260, expected slugging 379. He should be pretty damn good against this Texas team. So at least one side, maybe we got a little bit of something that we can look forward to type of thing there. So yeah, hoping that both these offenses kind of, I guess Toronto stays cold and Texas kind of comes back down to earth. They've had a couple big games, but that was against the White Sox. I'm thinking both these starting pitchers kind of get off the races. If I had to pick a side, I do think Toronto plus money is probably where I would end up going, just due to the fact that Gausman has been a beast against the current roster, this Texas team, and you're getting plus money. If someone's going to sit there and be like, yeah, but Gausman is, DeGrom's filthy, he throws a slider, which Toronto, it's like their worst pitch, they're one of the worst teams in the league hitting the slider, I'm not trying to argue with you, you know what I mean? So I get it, but I am going to go first. I think I might split a full unit, so a half unit on the first 5 under, and then a half unit on the first 3 under. We're getting a little bit more comfortable with those first 3s. I think we've cashed 2 and lost 1. Maybe it's 2 and 2. I'll have to look back at our record here. But I kind of like those because it's like a first quarter play in basketball. All right, Kansas City taking on Cincinnati. The pitching match was Michael Lorenzen up against Nick Martinez. This Kansas City team, I'm still trying to kind of feel out, right? And I would say the same thing about Cincinnati. At least we know Cincinnati goes in these stretches of like 4 games of no runs, and they spike, and then they spike back down. But kind of predicting when they spike up and drop down is the whole thing. What I will give credit to is Kansas City at least starting to put some runs on the board, 8-1, 4-2 in their last 4 games in terms of runs scored. I would give him, like I said, a little bit of credit there. I don't think Nick Martinez is necessarily the best type of pitcher here against this Kansas City team, and a guy that's going to throw a ton of fastballs on the other side, Michael Lorenzen, who isn't going to necessarily cause a ton of swing and misses, but more than Nick Martinez. I think if we have balls in play with Kansas City at home, that's probably the side that I would take a peek at. If this thing goes to the bullpen, I give them a little bit of an advantage too. So yeah, I'll lean Kansas City. But because of the two pitchers can be up and down, this might be the type of game that ends up being like, a 5-4 game. Not to be on the fence here, but I could also see like a 3-2 game. I'm going to lean over just because I do think that late in the game, maybe some more runs come in, and giving the Reds credit for being at the peak of one of their run scoring times, and then maybe Kansas City's getting it going, right? It's not like we have two studs on the mound. We don't have two bad pitchers. These are definitely serviceable pitchers, but maybe some runs come in today. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the over. Actually don't know. I think the weather was pretty bad in this one. Yeah, a lot of wind, a lot of rain, but I think this could be like a 5-4 game just because it's messy, never mind because of like power rating and whatnot. All right, similar to the Cubs and Rockies, let's blow through this one quickly. We got the Mets taking on the White Sox. Adrian Hauser on the mound here for the Sox, going up against Clay Holmes, who's obviously been a little bit better. I would say White Sox team total under is in play here. I think you could have, let's see if we can still get that. I know when looking at it earlier, there actually was a decent price tag on 3.5, but I'm kind of thinking based on that total, maybe not so much anymore. And yeah, it's moved about 10 cents. Under 3.5 was minus 160. Now it's minus 175. If you could still get that good price of, something in the minus 160s, I think that's the case because they've gone over that in 4 straight games. I don't think they keep doing that. You know what I mean? If you want to figure out a way to look at the Mets, even their run line right now is like minus 150 for minus 1.5. That's a little, too much for me. And their run scored here over 4.5. They've only done it in 3 of their last 10 games. Could they do it today? For certain, because it's the White Sox and they're at home and all that jazz, right? But I don't necessarily think it's the best conditions overall. I think we have some swirling winds there. But again, it is the White Sox. Maybe they could put up a run. So hell, I'll go team total under for the White Sox, team total over for the Mets. It's kind of the only thing that we could probably get to in this game. All right, Gavin Williams on the mound for Cleveland, taking on Yamamoto for the Dodgers. Am I crazy to want to consider Dodgers just money line here? I mean, I know the travel, I know the situation may not be the best, but they're coming off of, they are on the East Coast, right, and at the Mets. They're coming off of 2 straight losses. The offenses look like crap, and to me, Gavin Williams is due for some regression. He has 4 really good starts right now against Minnesota, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Toronto. It's like 2.5 good offenses out of those 4. So, yeah, I kind of think he's due for some regression. His numbers, small sample size, but average against this current roster, 538. Expected slugging, 409. A little tough there. And, Yamamoto's obviously a stud pitcher, right? What we're going to get from him is a lot of fastballs, a lot of splitters. The splitter, Cleveland does hit fairly well, but the fastball, not so much. I think I'm going to lean towards, the Dodgers in this spot. Just kind of bet it and forget it in a sense. Like, you're getting them at minus 146. I want to say that, they have the late advantage, I would say, the pitching advantage, and definitely the offensive advantage, as we're going to get a ton of fastballs and sliders from Gavin Williams. We should see some big runs there. So, yeah, give me the Dodgers on the money line. In terms of a total, I guess that's a little worrisome, right, because of looks like we have, some bad. Actually, no, the weather doesn't even look that terrible. But in Via Ballpark, pal, looks like Progressive's playing at a minus 15% runs today. So, yeah, I guess that's tough. But I would say that impacts the Guardians against Yamamoto more than it does some of these guys on the damn Dodgers, right? So, yeah, screw it. I'm going to go. This is probably a final play. Money line for the Dodgers, minus 140-ish. Mid minus 140s is the number right now. I think that's probably a decent deal. In terms of the total, with the weather involved and whatnot, maybe a team total over for the Dodgers is the only thing, because at least now we're not counting on 2 teams to score in what seems like bad-ish conditions. All right, next up, we have Tampa Bay taking on Minnesota. Zach Littell on the mound going up against Chris Paddock. I like the over in this spot. Though we have 2 offenses that are definitely hot and cold, this Minnesota offense has shown that they can put up numbers, especially recently, right? Tampa Bay, I worry about a little bit, but we do have Chris Paddock, who pretty much is going to just hum fastballs and get contact. His swing and miss rate this year is only 8.5. That isn't all that great. Same thing with Zach Littell as well. He's going to throw a lot of sliders and a lot of splitters and fastballs. The slider and fastball are 2 pitches that Minnesota hits well, so I think I start with an over in this one. I think this is a 5-4 game, not at minimum, but like I think this is a 5-4 game, and then maybe there's some runs that come afterwards. Maybe there's 4 runs in regulation, we head to overtime, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like, yeah, we got 1 more to come, 2 more to come, and extras. Picking a side, honestly, is tough in this one because if you ask me to trust someone between Paddock and Littell, I don't necessarily have the best of answers. I guess I would say for the price and how they've been playing, Minnesota would be the look here, right? 7 of their last 10 games. But look at Tampa Bay, like coming off of 5 straight wins, get 2 against Houston, 3 against Toronto. They're playing pretty well too. But they did go, Bradley, Rasmussen, Baz, and Pepio. I don't know if Littell's kind of on the same starting pitching spot as that. He was one of the teams that beat this Houston team, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say Minnesota here because you're getting plus money. If these odds are reversed, I would start to consider Tampa Bay, I think. So give me Minnesota as well as an over spot. Arizona taking on Pittsburgh. Pitching matchup is going to be Ryan Nelson going up against Andrew Heaney. I love Arizona. I love betting Arizona. I think that they're a really good ball club and still somehow underrated. But Andrew Heaney versus Ryan Nelson gives me a little bit of, pause there because Andrew Heaney has been fantastic. Ryan Nelson has looked okay in his first 2 starts, but I don't know how much to trust him. He's not making it deep into games, and this is an Arizona bullpen that we always have to keep in mind. So I would say that this is a spot in which maybe even a first 5 under could be in play. But I'm trying to make a case for Pittsburgh. So I guess I lean Pittsburgh, but realistically, Ryan Nelson does throw fastballs a ton. It makes up like 60% of his pitch mix, as well as cutter, which ends up making like 75% on top of that. The fastball and cutter combo should dominate this Pittsburgh lineup that just can't hit. So that's a little worrisome, right? If you do like Pittsburgh, but for the price, Andrew Heaney could blank. Who knows? Maybe Andrew Heaney goes out there and has a fantastic game against Arizona, and it's like, yeah, only a couple runs wins this one. I don't know. I think I'm going to lean under or first 5 under more so than a side, but screw it. Pittsburgh is the side that I'm considering here because of the pitching matchup. Heaney's a lot better than Ryan Nelson. All right, we got Vasquez and the Padres going up against Weathers and the Marlins. Have trouble kind of judging Ryan Weathers, right? And I have for a couple of years now. He has been, 2 starts deep now, obviously, and 1 earned run through 5 innings, and then 2 earned runs through 5 innings. Both against the Cubs, though, which is interesting, right? I do think Randy Vasquez is kind of back to pitching some decent baseball. Remember, the beginning of the year, he was really good, kind of cooled off for a little bit. I would say you have the better offense on San Diego, but, like, have they really been? I'm going to say San Diego's my lean, but guys, if there's any team that is like close to the DNB graveyard in terms of us not taking them for an extended period of time, it's San Diego. They have a chokehold. We lean towards them all the time, and they just lose. And we even saw in that last game, right? They had to battle to get that win. They were on the verge of losing 3 straight games against Atlanta, only scoring, 1 run. So big yikes. So I'm going to lean San Diego, but I'll tell you, there's a little bit of caution in the wind there. Overall, especially with this total being down at 7.5, like that's telling me you're going to not get a big offensive performance from either one of these guys, right? And at that point, who do we think is the better pitcher? I think that Weathers may have some better stuff, but Vasquez does have the better team behind him and the better bullpen. It's tough. I'm going to say San Diego. I'll take the bait and like the under because I can't just, guarantee San Diego scores runs, and Weathers has looked okay, right? So I'll go San Diego on the under, but man, oh man, am I like second guessing this constantly. All right, last game up, we have the Angels taking on the Yanks. Ryan Yarbrough on the mound going up against Jack Kochanowicz. This is an interesting one because I do think that you can make a case for Kochanowicz kind of keeping the ball in play and on the ground here. New York, obviously, a team that hits a lot of home runs or with a lot of power. And Kochanowicz, one of the guys that, he's going to, not have many swings and misses, not have low contact. Guys will hit the ball, but he keeps the ball on the ground. I don't think that's enough for me to get to the Angels overall. I mean, New York has the better offense, the better bullpen, and you could say the better, pitching in this spot. So situationally, maybe it's not the best time to take the Yankees, coming to LA here. They were just were in Colorado, but I can't really trust the Angels. So for the price tag, similar to what we talked about with the Dodgers, that it's a little juicy, but maybe this is a spot in which you don't really get the Yankees without the situation versus, the Angels in the minus 150s, which right now minus 157 over on Profit X. So I think that, that's, what, I'm going to say that's probably going to be a final play. Just due to the fact that you're probably, if like this was a game where the Yankees were, already in LA and playing the Angels, like they just got off a series of the Dodgers, and they didn't have to travel whatsoever, change elevation, all that jazz, right? They'd probably be in the minus 170s here at least. The fact that we can potentially snag them here at minus 164, that sounds a little good to me. I would also say their team total over. I know Kachanowicz, like I said, you could make the argument that he could keep it in the ballpark, but this Yankees team can also bat it around a decent amount. So I would say that even if you don't like the Yankees today, maybe stay away, because I tried like hell to make a case for Kachanowicz and the Angels, but realistically couldn't get there. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't strike enough guys out to blank this Yankees team. Even if they put it on the ground, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't score runs, right? So Yankees team total over. I don't know about a full game over, because I don't know if this Angels offense is going to be able to hit a lefty in Yarba. But Yankees team total over and them on the money line is what I'd be considering. And guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Kind of a quick one here because we couldn't find too many player props. But go ahead and comment 25 if you made it this far in the video. And if we do find some player props, I'll add them in with the final plays. And if we didn't talk about it, I'll give a little blurb as to why I like it, my reasoning and rationale. You know what I mean? So we might add some more. But so far, I think we do have a few good-looking spots for some final plays. But yeah, 12-game slate. Let's see what we can do today. I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.